All right, so I'm here with Arin and she is a student at, where are you a student, Arin?
Okanagan College in Kelowna.
Okanagan College in Kelowna. And so you're at your first ever BC Tourism Industry Conference.
Yeah, it's amazing and giant.
Giant, yeah.
Compared to what I'm used to.
Yeah, so I guess coming to this conference here, what were you hoping to get out of the conference?
Well, I'm here as a speaker to try to share my story as how Okanagan College is helping me achieve my goals, but also to network and get to know a lot of people in the tourism industry. Going into agritourism, it's a little important to me to get to know who's at the head of all these decisions that are being made in BC.
For sure, yeah. So Okanagan College obviously is doing a lot of things.
Yes.
I've actually come across them quite a few times. So why don't you tell me a little bit about kind of what you're speaking about?
Sure, yeah. So the Okanagan College, I've been there for 5 years. And throughout my time there, I've gone through 3 different specialties, including tourism and hospitality, finance and accounting, but all of them have integrated some form of industry into what they're teaching us, which is wonderful, because then we get a chance to see what we're going into compared to just a straight up education point of view. So for me, I went into it as a mature student, which means that like most of it's not tiered towards me. They're usually cookie cutter, but I decided to go my own way. And through their education, their classes and courses that they've taught me, I've been able to tweak it to create the perfect education to achieve the goals that I want to have. And in terms of creating an agritourism business on my family farm over in Newcastle.
Oh, fantastic. I love that. Newcastle is beautiful, by the way.
Thank you. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I'm a big fan, too. I like
perfect. I'll have to see you there then.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Agritourism, we need people.
For sure. So I'm really interested in your perspective because you are a student. I asked you if you used AI, and you said, yes, I do. I'm a student.
Yes, I do.
So I'm really interested in that. Tell me a little bit about, first of all, how you use AI as a student.
For sure. I've actually did it backwards most recently, so I had to create a case study, and I am very wordy as a person, so I had created this long, drawn-out, very rambly sort of essay, and I needed help actually making it a little bit smaller and easier to digest on a very quick basis, because the people who were consuming it needed very fast ways to consume information. They didn't have time to read paragraphs of information that I had, so I used AI to actually, can you take this paragraph and simplify it for me, because I went too far. We also used it for various design purposes. Accounting, finance, and tourism, not necessarily the most design-oriented of all of the industries, so I needed a lot of help from AI on how to make this pretty for this type of market.
Right.
So that was really great. I've also run into a lot of AI use in group projects. We also have to be careful not to overutilize it, so we kind of self-police ourselves, make sure they're not being used inappropriately, but where they're needed, so we pop something into a AI software and we ask them, what is this? Can you give us a quick refresher on what the key financial ratios are in regards to the finances of a winery? So literally did that last week because we were like, what is this? Right, remind me, thank you. And we continue on with our classes. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Does the Okanagan College have kind of responsible AI use policies, guidelines? Are you allowed to use AI? Tell me a little bit about that part of things.
So it's kind of new. Back in 2020 wasn't really a thing that a lot of people used or knew about. I believe it was in the past 2 years they introduced policies that kind of helped guide our usage of it. So some professors will add, you can use AI, you just can't use it to write your whole essay.
Okay.
So use it to generate ideas, to get things simplified, to get things rolling, but don't necessarily rely on it for your content.
Okay.
We also have some policies where it says straight up, no, don't use any whatsoever. So we're very careful to not use, say, those design softwares that I was talking about. So.
Have any students that you know have gotten in trouble?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, and rightfully so, unfortunately.
So,
there was, I'm like, that's not you.
Yeah.
And they're like, but it was, no, that's not you. Go write it again.
Okay, so yeah, I'm curious how that is sort of handled. So obviously if somebody gets caught using AI inappropriately, so then how does the college kind of manage that situation?
I don't know that from an upper point of view.
For sure, but from a student perspective, what have you heard?
Kind of a hand slap, don't do it. Mostly I've noticed the students self-policing each other, so it's usually in group projects, and usually you can tell if that's not how someone was able to actually write and develop what they were thinking about. So we actually are like, hey, maybe don't do that. It's not allowed. And so they were actually able to, this is my professor, hi. So we were actually to go back and be able to tell them, don't use AI for this, or do use AI in this kind of context, so that we can actually benefit as a group. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I don't necessarily have confidence that we're not going to get in trouble. So that self-policing was really important, especially for group members.
So I'm really interested in the student perspective on this, because I've spoken to a lot of professors, I've spoken to a lot of deans, and it's a concern amongst faculty in terms of how do we deal with this, how do we teach people in this new world. So can you tell me from your perspective, like, do you think banning it is the right thing? Do you think the kinds of policies Okanagan College has are the right things? Free for all, like, kind of give me your sense of kind of how you think this should be going.
Well, it's new software, and with any new software or any new technology, you really have to kind of monitor how people are using it and if it's ethical, right? So do you want to use it in a way that is going to benefit humanity, or is it going to take away from humanity? You have to be careful with how you use that tool. So I fully support the use of AI in a lot of different circumstances, but I think having the mentality and the training to be like, this is where the line is drawn. You don't cross it to pretend to be someone else or to take someone out of a job that would normally be very valuable to the economy. You need them there. So maybe teaching people how to use AI, even artists, even people in business, use AI responsibly. And that's the most important thing.
So on that note, like, I'm wondering, like, as a younger person maybe that doesn't, like, so for me AI can sound really smart and really convincing, and it can really kind of like, oh, this must be right because look at how good it sounds. Like, so as a person that maybe doesn't have experience in the subject matter area or doesn't know much about the topic, are you concerned about sort of being led in the wrong direction in terms of it hallucinating, making something up, and sort of?
Maybe. I mean, I'm not too worried. I can't say I can spot AI super easy, but I'm around people who can. And through they're usually Gen Zs or younger than me, and they're like, oh, that's AI. This is how you can tell. So just having that word of mouth, that conversation with people about AI is super important, because then you can actually filter. It's like any information, right? Like, you can take any news. It could be from a real person, could be from an industry, and you have to take it from a critical lens, right? Same with AI.
I keep telling people that the number one skill of the future is discernment, right? And then being able to sort of have a critical thinking skill around some of this and think a little bit critically about some of these things.
Absolutely.
And so are you concerned in terms of, obviously, the Gen Zs and the younger generations, they're growing up with this stuff. And, like, do you think that there's reasons to be concerned about that?
They're magical. I love them. They are so talented.
Yeah, they're so smart.
I've had so many roommates that are younger than me, and they are just so smart, and they are so ready to kind of help us get to where we need to be. We just have to be open to it. So, like, listen to them, understand what they're trying to, like, tell us and how they're using it. And maybe remember that they're still younger. Sometimes they don't make the best decisions, and that's okay. That's where our critical thinking skills come in.
Yeah. What's interesting about what you just said there is, like, one of the things I believe, and actually Juan and I talk about this a little bit, is that, like, so, I'm 45. I've run a company for 15 years. I have some life experience, and so I have stuff to offer the younger generation in terms of wisdom and knowledge and experience, right? But Juan, as an example, is young and tech savvy, and he has a lot to offer me in terms of, right? So for me, the way to get there is to bring the two together and have really good, meaningful conversations.
Absolutely.
It sounds like you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yes, 100%. Like, you have to work together. You can't just be in your zone, in your lane, and just not think about anything. But how do you get in front of those people? How do you find those people? Sometimes they're very different industries, very different areas. How do you, hey, what's up, young kids? Like that meme?
Right. Yeah.
You'd be like, what's up, my kids? You can't do that.
Yeah.
How do you get in those same spaces to talk with them?
Yeah.
I was just lucky I went to college.
Right. Yeah. So I'm wondering about that. Like, does Okanagan College, from your experience anyways, engage with students about this conversation? Is this sort of a conversation everybody's having together, or
about
is
AI?
it sort of about AI and AI use, or is it sort of students having one conversation and faculty's having another, and that's more what's happening?
I think so. I mean, just because faculty is dealing with so much, the college is dealing with so much, they're trying to constantly change depending upon things, like especially with that new policy reducing immigrant students, right? So they're having to deal with that. So the AI on top of that, it's kind of
a lot.
Back of their mind. So students have their own culture, their own way of talking about it and like using it in a way that is good and bad, but the faculty can't keep up on top of everything else.
Right.
So having those conversations, like, they're really great at listening to students. However, there's a lot more on the table than just AI.
There is. Yeah, it's really busy. Yeah. So in terms of the student conversations, sounds to me like a pretty robust conversation happening at the student level.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. It's in every conversation you have with students.
Really, eh? Yeah. Interesting. And is it because you kind of started your post-secondary in the pre-AI era, I would just say, and now you're in the current AI era. So how has that, like, it's come in pretty quick, right?
Yeah, really quick.
And so now it's like all of a sudden everything everybody's talking about. Is that sort of your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was there, but not really used, I guess. And then as soon as they realized how great it is, they're like, let's go. I mean, why not?
Yeah. And so your sense, I'm getting, is that this conversation the students and the young people are going to really accelerate things in a way I think that probably the older generation is not really ready for.
Maybe, and we have to be okay with that, though, right? It's kind of like when they introduced the internet back in the late 1900s. You could say it in that terrible way. So, the internet came in, so how were they able to police whether or not people went to a library to get their research material or if they went online? Do that.
Right.
They figured out where was the benefits, where were the negatives, and they kind of navigated it. Now we use the internet all the time.
I love that. And the reality is that like technology happens and we adapt to it.
Absolutely.
And this is just another technology and we're just adapting to it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love
and
that.
we have to do it ethically and responsibly.
Yes. And so, no, that's fantastic. So if you can wave a magic wand and get AI to do anything for you, to solve any problem that you think that would be worth solving, what would that be?
Worldwide or personal?
Wherever.
I think it already exists, actually. There's an app I use that's AI, and it just helps me with my subjects, what I need. So I tell them, I need to figure out how to do this. It gives me a how-to. And I can tell it not that one, and it changes it for me.
What is that tool?
It's called Goblin Tools. It's $1 a year.
Goblin Tools.
And you can tell it exactly how much help you need in a day. So
amazing.
I love using it. It's a great way to get things done if my brain just can't function in that kind of capacity that day.
So that's actually another interesting kind of topic of conversation in the sense of like, obviously being around a student population, there's probably a lot of tools compared to like, everybody in my age is like ChatGPT, that's AI, but obviously there's a lot of tools out there.
There's tons.
And everybody's, the young people are using a whole bunch of them. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how to decipher exactly like what is entirely AI, one is benefited by AI, one of it is not at all.
Yeah.
It just depends on the item that you use. So for example, my brother-in-law's thinking about some sort of AI assistant, which is, I think, going to be incredibly useful going forward for anybody in any age, any industry, but particularly business owners.
Yeah.
I'd love to give me a list of ideas.
Well, in fact, I've created kind of a co-CEO GPT just inside ChatGPT where I trained it on all my goals. I trained it on what we're all about. And now it just sort of assists me and helps me along the way, right? So, I mean, you can do that within ChatGPT pretty easily, but I'm sure there's going to be more and more just sort of products that are just designed for that purpose, right?
And that's what I love to see. That's my magic wand, is more of that. I want to see a lot more assistant, because that's how we can benefit without stepping on the toes of people who can actually do wonderful things. Yeah.
So kind of maybe one final question here is like, obviously these tools are going to be kind of all over the place, pretty ubiquitous. We're going to be able to use them for a bunch of different things. And so I see really the role of the future being kind of management. You're going to manage a team of AI agents or AI tools, right? Is that kind of how you see things?
Sort of. I have heard a contrary, actually, position where people are run by an AI manager.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm like, that's an interesting concept. I don't know if people have been thinking about that one.
Okay.
Because who's more efficient at deciding who gets to go where based on statistics?
Interesting.
Probably AI. So, we have to think about it that way too.
That is interesting. So that is interesting. Now, if it becomes where we're managing a bunch of AIs, I guess what I'm trying to get to is like, I think management skills are going to be important in this whole thing, right? Regardless, right? Do you kind of agree with that perspective?
Absolutely.
Interesting. Nice. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. That's a fascinating conversation. Appreciate it.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks, Arin.
Nice to meet you too.